Alright, so you guys wanted a video about World of Horror, and that's what you'll be getting today. Today we'll be going over World of Horror and things that I think make it such an amazing roguelike and such a unique game. I just want to talk about something a little scarier, I guess, because it is like spooky month, I guess, if you want to put it like that. And I just hope you guys enjoy this one, as usual, and yeah. First thing I wanted to talk about was the gameplay. I won't really go super in depth, rather I'll just give you like the general idea. It's 1980, you're in the town of Shiokawa, which is a real life village by the way. There is some like strange eldritch god threatening the world, or I guess Shiokawa in some cases, and the god itself depends on what you choose, and it's causing these mysterious mysteries, I guess, to happen. You play as someone who is in some way related to all of this and want to solve these mysteries and stop the old god. You need to solve 5 different mysteries, which is random every single playthrough. Each mystery will have you investigating all kinds of disturbing and strange things, such as ramen infused with living sentient meat, to fighting a statue of a child made out of human nails, which is made by a serial killer, and then that statue ends up killing its creator in one ending, but whatever. And then you also get to fight some like urban myth creatures, I guess. The fun thing about these missions, by the way, is that they're all like individual, and they're not linked in any way. They're almost like little short horror stories, but they can kind of link together, I guess you could say, in some ways, because you know, one case has you getting an item from another, and you can use it in other places. It's kind of complicated. It has to go pretty in depth with the mechanics. Each mystery also has different endings depending on what you do, and sometimes it can lead you to uncover a deeper level and understanding of each mystery. You can solve it very literally, but it usually is a harder challenge. The thing is that you might think, oh, okay, well, I can just take all the time I want. You are actually on a time limit, as there is something called a doom meter that rises slowly throughout the game just by investigating or because of an event or an enemy that can increase doom. If this reaches 100%, the game is lost automatically, and you will get like a special game over screen. Anyways, so after every mystery and after defeating every, I guess, like mystery, I don't know how to put it. I wouldn't say you defeat them all the time. You basically get some kind of key, and you need 5 keys to reach this lighthouse, where basically the, I guess, like artifact that the god is hiding in is. You go up basically at the end of the game, up to the very top of the tower. You have to go through different trials and defeat new characters and stuff, and eventually when you reach the top, you destroy the artifact related to the old god that's causing all of this to happen, and the game is won, and you save Shiokawa or the world. And I think this gameplay loop alone is already a great start. It's random, allows for a bunch of different things to happen. Again, I did not get into the nitty-gritty of it, but there are so many different aspects that make this game something that you can play repeatedly again and again. There's different challenges, different like play styles, an entirely different timeline that has a different mystery, like a different ending for mysteries. The combat system is like super unique and incredibly like different, I should say. It's really cool. And I think the fact that it's like kind of like, it's just such an interesting way that they make the gameplay loop. It's just such a very fascinating way that the game plays itself, because there's a bunch of things I didn't mention, like funds, shops, stat systems. I just went over the basic general idea, and there are so many characters you can play as well, and you know, I was addicted to this game for a while, and I think it's absolutely fantastic. And not to mention, now if you ever get bored, you can actually mod the game. They've added modding support, and that's honestly a great change. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the horror, which is immaculately done. A lot of this game is heavily based on H.P. Lovecraft and Junji, two very famous writers who have both made things that have heavily influenced pop culture and horror in general. I mean, there also are a other variety of influences, and they definitely reference them. There are plenty of times that you can look at that and see, oh, that's from this or that's from that. But it's mainly Ito and Lovecraft. These two authors have a heavy influence on this game's horror, and I wouldn't say this game's horror is definitely mainstream by far. Like, it's definitely not mainstream. Mainstream horror tends to be like, you know, like look for yourself. You've seen what is popular right now, mascot horror, you know, like supernatural creatures and shit. But this game's approach to horror is much more unique. The horror tends to be more rooted in things such as cosmic horror, mythology, body horror, and that like interesting, I don't know how to explain it, like Junji Ito horror. If you've ever read anything by him, Uzumaki or Otomi or like anything like any of his short stories, it's that kind of horror, and it's so amazing and extremely hard to describe. And this applies to the game as a whole, from the concept of the mysteries to the enemies, events, old gods. Every aspect of this game has this, and I love it so much. For example, the mysteries are amazing. Take for example, I explained a few earlier, but take for example one called The Spine-Chilling Story of School Scissors. The mystery has you looking around a school for a way to summon this version of like Kuchisake Onna, which is a really famous urban myth about like a yokai, a ghost basically, who like asks if she's pretty and then has like this jongleur smile and like she kills you. It was like really popular like years ago. They made a movie out of it. Anyways, so yeah, you have to look for the different things, fight different enemies, explore the school, and upon summoning it, it's not her, it's this different version with 3 heads stacked on top of it. I think the art looks absolutely fantastic, but I'll talk about that later. And it's the whole reason she looks different is because the old urban legend has been influenced by the Eldritch God and has been summoned in reality. If you get what I'm saying, I don't know, it talks more about that in the game. And you know, it's so interesting because they basically took this old urban legend and put their own subversion on it, and they made it its own thing, its own eldritch thing. And there are so many other amazing mysteries that I think are so unique and cool, both as like actual horror stories and for things as gameplay. Not to mention, the old gods have this amazing eldritch and cosmic feel. They aren't just creatures who want to like blow up or like the earth or something like that, or like Thanos snap it or anything. They have their own interesting way of like stopping humanity. It's really, and it's usually pretty conceptually horrible. Take for example Zekcast. I can never say his name right. Zekcast, whatever. It's this creature that comes down from a meteorite and wants to use Shiokawa as a way to like become the perfect creature. And as the game goes on, you have different things like, you know, different events will happen where it's like your eyes will literally be covered by skin, like a membrane-ish skin, and you can see perfectly without having your eyes physically see anything. You have your fingers become double jointed. You know, your blood turns clear. Everyone starts to everyone starts to think very similar. Everyone starts to merge into one. And basically, in the end, if you let your Doom Meter like reach all the way to 100%, Zekcast absorbs all of Shiokawa, merging every single human and every single living thing, every single part of Shiokawa, and it basically is this giant orb. You can see it here, and it's trying to become, it's trying to like quote nurture the infant of God, as it says. It's really a unique, and I know this is based on something else actually, but this is still really unique and is, as mentioned, based on an actual Lovecraft book. I forgot the name of it. But yeah, the enemies are also stylistically amazing and are heavily based on that Junji Ito-ish kind of stuff. But I'll talk more about, you know, the style and art later. They also reflect like that same macabre and unique horror feel that the rest of this game has. For example, instead of fighting like freaking serial killer and killer clowns and like ghosts, well, normal ghosts, I should say. The ghosts in this game are actually completely different. There's an enemy called the Class of 1971, which is an amalgamation of corpses of students that have like fused together after they fell off a cliff and like it collapsed, and then they all like merged together, I guess, and became a creature. And it has like all these limbs sticking out, and it's such a unique, interesting concept as an enemy. And I think it's just such a great it's such a great style. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the art and style. I'll keep it short because you can already see why I love the art and style in this game so much, but it is heavily based on Junji Ito. The grotesque and macabre style. It's like body horror, but not in the way that is like super gory and realistic, but it's very intriguing. If you've ever seen that one scene from, I think it was Uzumaki, where that girl like has the spiral in her head, you've probably seen that before. It's like that. It has that, it's not gory, but it's still body horror in a sense. Yeah, that one, it's a shame what happened to that anime. I wish, okay, whatever, getting off track. It helps a lot that the game is also in this 2 or 1-bit style. It tends to be in black and white if you choose like the standard, I guess, like color scheme, which makes it feel more like a manga that is in black and white, just like Junji Ito's work. And many of the enemies overall, and the, I guess, overall style of the game, pushes that feel of that Junji Ito heart, you know, like soul, I guess you could say, and includes, like, of course, the concepts, as I mentioned earlier. If you've ever read or seen anything Junji Ito related, you'll kind of know what I mean by that. You know, as I mentioned, there's the sense of body horror in this fantasy way. You know, take for example this one character called the Meaty Visitor. You know, it's not gory, but it's grotesque, but it feels fantasy-ish in the same way. Or this tree lady, this dryad, I guess you could call her in like actual mythological terms. I also love all the things that they show you in the ending screens as well. I think they're amazingly drawn. Take for example this one called Yolazitz. I can't say his name, but it's an old god, so you know it's gonna sound weird. The ending screen for that, if you know your Doom reaches max, it looks like this giant like eyeball is literally gonna eat Earth. You can see it looks so cool and unique, and it has this amazing style. Or this one called Kathak Atarasu, which is like based on a real mythology thing. It's very tragic, it has a sense of despair and impending doom, and I think the flavor text adds a lot more. You kind of get a feel of the game and how it reflects its inspirations pretty heavily. And not to mention, there's actually a ton of references in general. I think in the in the early versions of the game, you could find Junji Ito himself, but then they got rid of it and just replaced it like this dude with a mustache. I don't know, but yeah, I think the art is absolutely phenomenal. One of the standout parts of this game, along with the horror and the gameplay. I guess everything. The last thing I wanted to talk about is like the music, which is absolutely phenomenal, just like everything else in this game. There are multiple themes for different investigations, and they, like, the different themes play depending on the, like, location the mystery tends to be centered around. For example, if a mystery, such as, like, the one that I talked about with Kochi Sakeone, is focused on the school, it'll play the school investigation theme and the combat theme, regardless of where you are. So you could be in the forest and it'll still play that combat theme from the school, like, mystery combat theme, whatever, you get the point. Each theme feels so fitting for the game no matter where you are, and they also fit really well in, like, the location, and they are all absolutely phenomenal. Even if they all are, like, really different, really different, they all still kind of play into the same themes. I don't know how to put it, but you can definitely take a listen for yourself if you're interested. I'll go over a few things that I think are absolutely amazing. They all have this theme of, like, despair, dread, anxiety, mystery, and this, like, slight spacey, cosmic-y feel, and, like, this feeling of, like, you're fighting for your life. For example, the school theme, like, the actual theme, not the investigation theme, not the combat theme, feels very dreadful. It feels anxiety driven. You've probably heard it in this video as background music, and, you know, it's got this looming sense, like it feels like something is over your shoulder almost. And the combat theme, on the other hand, feels desperate and claustrophobic almost, and I love how fast-paced and chaotic it feels, and it just feels like almost like this last-ditch effort of just pure survival, and it's so good. As a contrast, by the way, then we have, like, the seaside theme for the seaside-centered mysteries, I guess you could say, and it feels very calming and peaceful, but interestingly has this kind of sense of a looming threat in the background, but it's a lot less prevalent than the other songs, and it feels slightly unnerving even if it is calming, and it does keep you on your toes. And its combat theme feels very, like, it's very unique. It feels spacey and slower, but it has, like, this guitar solo and stuff, and I think it's an absolute banger. The forest investigation theme is also really ambient, but it slowly turns into something that gives you a sense of anxiety and fear, but it kind of starts it at the start. It feels more, I don't know how to put it, but again, you should absolutely listen to the, like, songs yourself. It's hard to explain a lot of these because the way they're composed is so unique. They're also all, as I think you could probably already tell, they're all 8-bit to fit the style, obviously. And I'm gonna have to say this, when I'm with the forest theme, it does feel like I'm wandering in a forest alone, all by myself. And its combat theme plays this, like, very, it feels more like a chase song, and it's utterly phenomenal. It feels super tense, and it feels like I'm actually being chased, and I'm trying to run away from something, and I'm, like, fighting for my life. I don't know how to put it. And then another phenomenal theme, and probably the last one I'll be talking about, is the bulletin board. Actually, no, I think I'll talk about one more. But the bulletin board mystery is amazing, and I think it's honestly one of my favorite mysteries in general because it's a lot more real than people think. It's basically about a sentient bulletin board, one of those old image boards, that says it's the voice of humanity and it's getting people to commit suicide to, quote, save them. And it created a large cult around it. And if you've ever read or watched, because it's a movie too, and it's also a manga, it's something called Suicide Circle, a Japanese film, manga, novel. It's pretty, this will feel pretty familiar. I won't talk about it too much here. I won't talk about everything about this, mystery, but the theme, the main investigation theme feels so bittersweet. It feels like a lure. It feels like it's luring you in to try and get you to join the cult. And it feels so sad and gloomy, but it's so gentle at the same time, and it's very hard to explain. And its combat theme just is really rocky, and it's absolutely slaps. Listen to it for yourself. Everyone loves this one. It's got, like, a whole guitar thing, but it also plays into that sense of, like, hope, but at the same time, like, despair. I don't know. The final one I'll talk about is when you get home. When you're at your actual house, it plays this song that feels so neutral. It feels so happy, but it has this sense of, like, this is where it ends, and it's such a hard feeling to describe. You probably heard it already, but it feels very macabre, like, not macabre, but, like, bittersweet. It's honestly very hard to explain. I could go on and on about all the different songs, honestly, and they are all amazing, but I'm not going to do it for the sake of time, but you should absolutely check it out. In general, you should probably just get the game. It's definitely gonna get an update eventually, but even if it's not, you should just buy it. The modding's great, the community is great, the game is great, the art is great, everything about this game is just amazing. And I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll see you guys next time. Hopefully the next video isn't depressing because you guys wanted the one about hate, but I might not do that because it's honestly a pretty depressing topic as I kind of researched it. Anyways, see you guys next time.